viewers, welcome to CEC lectures. In our series of Introduction to Programming using C++, let us try to explore more about operator overloading. We have already seen some couple of lectures in this regard, and now we are going to explore about it more. So whenever we talk about, let me have a quick recap in a nutshell. When I am talking about overloading, so that overloading is nothing but a way of implementation of polymorphism in C++. And earlier we have seen two types of polymorphism. One is compile time and another one is runtime polymorphism. Within compile time polymorphism, we have seen function overloading, and now we are drilling down into operator overloading. In operator overloading, in the previous lectures, if you can recall what we have seen how to overload your unary operator. That is, we have taken increment operator, which is shown by sign of double plus. So we have seen the prefix version of it, how to overload that. We have seen how to overload the postfix version of that, and then we have also seen that how to overload this increment operator when we try to have some different return type other than a void. So this thing we have covered till this point. Now as far as overloading is concerned, and if we want to have a clear picture that how this overloading can be performed, so there are different ways of operator overloading. There are basically, we can say, three ways, but we are actually going through two. We are actually studying, or we are learning two ways. So the first way is using member function, how to overload the operator using member function. How to overload the operator using friend function is the second way, and then how to overload the operators using the normal functions, normal opper functions. Now when we talk about using member function, what we have did till this point, that we are using a specific, or we can say a designated function named as operator. This operator is a keyword, and these operator functions are used as the member functions, and these operator functions are, we can say, same as that of the normal functions. The only difference here is the name of the operator function is always always begins with operator keyword, which is followed by the symbol of that operator. For example, operator plus plus or operator minus minus, and these operator functions are called when the corresponding operator is used. So for example, we are using the operator plus plus. That means in a way we are calling the operator function in the scenario of operator overloading. Now this whole thing can be achieved with the help of either with the help of member function or with the help of friend function. So till this point we have seen how can we achieve this operator overloading using the member function. Means within the class we have designed a member function which is for operator overloading, and that is nothing but an operator function, and then we have used that operator function within the main function with the objects of that particular class, inside which operator function has been we can say written in the through the code as a member function. So till this point we have not explored the idea of using friend function for operator overloading. We have confined ourselves till now by with the idea of using member functions for operator overloading. Now also we have seen that how this operator overloading with the help of member function is working in case of unary operator. So as I have already told you, unary operators we have seen different versions. That is, we have taken increment operators. So we have seen the prefix version of that. We have seen how to overload the postfix version of that as well. And on the similar line, similar lines, you can design a we can say a program which is there for decrement operator minus minus. So now the today's focus will be operator overloading in binary operator. So, the moment I am saying binary operator, that means the binary operator, as you all are aware, it will work on two operands. For example, I am saying result is equals to num plus 19. So, basically plus here is that plus is a binary operator that works on the operands num and 19. So, two operands for plus num and 19, and whatever the results of addition of these two operands is will be kind of we can say stored to the result variable. So, till now we have not seen how to work with operator overloading in case of binary operators. So, this is what we are going to explore today. So, when we overload the binary operator, and that too for user defined types. Now, why I am saying user defined types? Because you are well aware that operator overloading is not for the kind of normal simple data types, it is only for the user defined data types, for example objects of the class, or we can say structures or something of that sort. So, here we are trying to overload the binary operator plus for user defined data types. Now, assuming what should be the code of this calling this operator function. So, the simple first thing which comes into my mind is obj3 is equals to obj1 plus obj2. Now, let me explain. obj3, obj1 and obj2 are actually the we can say three objects of one class. Now, what are we doing? We are actually adding object 1 and object 2, and whatever the result is we are getting, that is being stored into object 3, and this operator function is called using object 1 obj1 and obj2. These two objects obj1 and obj2 are passed as argument to that function, and here by kind of using this plus operator, as this plus operator is already overloaded, the operator function is called using this plus. So, whenever we are using plus, operator function is being called, and obj1 and obj2 will be passed as arguments to that particular function. So, this is what is the idea whenever I am saying obj3 is equals to obj1 plus obj2. Now, with this platform established, let us see, try to have a program which is there to overload this binary operator plus, but this program is again this is using a member function. This is not with a friend function. So, friend function, yes, of course, we will be covering in the upcoming lectures. Now, what this program is going to do, let me explain. So, basically, we have taken one class which is named as a complex, named as the class complex, and as the name shows, this is actually kind of representing a complex number. That means there are two parts to this complex number, one is real and another one is imaginary. So, if you can recall, complex numbers are in the form of x plus yi. So, x is you can say the real number and imaginary number is y. So, there are two components to it. So, we are going to use one overloaded operator which is plus. So, if we are going to give it kind of two objects, let us say C1 and C2. So, C1 is having x1 plus y1 I and C2 is having x2 plus y2 I. So, the result should be x1 plus x2 and y1 plus y2 I. So, this is what we want to do using this operator overloading for this binary binary operator plus. For here this binary operator plus is actually implemented for a particular object or for two objects of the class complex. So, for that what kind of code we need to write, let us see. So, here by starting by the standard hash include iostream and using namespace standards, we have one complex class in which there are two private members, one is real, another one is imag which shows the imaginary thing. imaginary part of the complex number, and these two are of type float. These are private members, and within the public section we have one constructor of this class complex. As it is a constructor, it is having the name complex. It is a non-parameterized constructor. So what it is doing, it is actually assigning the real part to 0 as well as the imaginary part to 0 as well. So this constructor complex, whenever is being called, whenever you are kind of making a simple object without we can say non-parameterized objects of class complex, it will take the real part, assign it to 0, it will take the imaginary part, assign it to 0 as well. So this is what the job of this constructor. Then in order to take the input, we have taken two inputs using the cin statement from user. The appropriate message is shown by enter the real and imaginary parts respectively, and C in real and C in imaginary is being kind of we can say taken from the user. So this function is there to take two input values corresponding to one object of the class complex, and these two values are real and imaginary, as I have told you, x plus yi. So we can say x and y we are actually taking. Now after the constructor and after the kind of an appropriate member function which is there to take input, the idea is to overload the operator, and this is what kind of we can say a unique feature in this particular class. Now how are we going to we can say overload the operator? So let's see that. So complex operator plus, and within the bracket constant complex ampersand object. Now what is this? Let's try to understand this prototype first. So what is kind of a familiar statement here? The familiar words here are operator plus, and now why we have written complex before the operator is showing that the return type of your operator function or return type of the function through which operator is being overloaded is an object of type complex. That is one thing. Then within the bracket I have passed basically one object of complex class, and that too is being actually passed by reference, it's not the passed by value, and along with a const keyword. So this const keyword and passing by reference both are having its own we can say individual utilities, which I will be covering in a short while. So basically we have const complex ampersand object. So one obj is being passed inside this. Now you may wonder that if we are talking about using the operator plus with two operands, obviously it's a binary operator, that means it is for two operands, why are we passing only one object? I'll explain this as well. So within this operator overloading function, there is an temp basically a temporary object of class complex, and we can say now the statement says temp dot real is equals to real plus obj dot real. Similarly for temp dot imaginary that is equals to imaginary plus object dot imaginary. So what these two lines actually means, these two lines, if we can consider the right hand side of the is equals to this assignment operator, we are having two values here, one is real, another one is obj dot real. So obj dot real is the real component of that object which is being passed as the parameter, and the only the value which is named as real here without any dot operator refers to the can say object which is calling the overloaded operator. So one is real, another one is obj dot real. So obj dot real is the real component of this obj which is being passed here, and the real component, the only the real part, that is the value, or that's the private value of the object, that object which is calling this plus operator. Similarly, it is happening with the temp dot imaginary is equals to imaginary plus obj dot imaginary, and finally this temp variable or this temp object of the class complex is being returned, because complex is the, we can say, it is necessary to return an object of type complex. Then in order to show the input, we are going to write if imaginary is less than 0, then we will say the complex number is real, imaginary and I, else we can say the complex number is real plus imaginary I. So this is what we are going to show in the output. So what is actually happening here? Here we have taken input statement, we have taken one constructor, then an input statement, then an operator to overload, and then an output function basically, which is there to print only depending upon your imaginary number is less than 0 or your imaginary part is not less than 0, and then there is an kind of end of class which is shown by closing curly bracket followed by a semicolon. Now what actually is happening, or how can we write the driver code? So here if you have seen in the main statement, I have taken 3 objects of class complex. One is complex 1, another one is complex 2, and third one is result. So as it indicates very clearly that complex 1 is for the first object, complex 2 is for the first object, and the result object is there to store the addition or the sum of complex 1 and complex 2 objects. So here complex 1 is calling the operator function and complex 2 is passed as an argument to function. Let me repeat it. This is a very kind of, we can say, a tricky idea here when we talk about member function. Whenever I am saying results is equals to complex 1 plus complex 2, and if you remember in the operator function we have just passed only one object. So before binary operator, whatever object is being written, that object is supposed to call the operator, and after the operator, whatever object is being returned, that object is passed as an argument to the function. So the obj which was passed to the operator function using pass by reference here is complex 2 here, and the function or the object which is calling the operator operator overloaded function here is complex 1. So whenever I am saying result is equals to complex 1 plus complex 2, complex 1 calls the operator function and complex 2 will be passed as an argument to the function. So if you remember previous code, I was saying temp dot real is equals to real plus obj dot real. So temp dot real will belong to, we can say, result, or will be stored in the result after the return statement. Then complex 1 is that real without any dot operator is corresponding to complex 1, and obj dot real, which is the real part of that obj object which is being passed as an argument to the function, is actually complex 2. Now I am sure that you are able to relate this statement result is equals to complex 1 plus complex 2 with the two statements, which is temp dot real is equals to real plus obj dot real and temp dot imaginary is equals to imaginary plus obj dot imaginary. But please remember, here it is just one statement, and corresponding to this one statement, as my overloaded operator is not for the simple data types, it is for the we can say complex data types or user defined data types. So, user defined data type here is an object of the class complex. So, real part of complex 1 and real part of complex 2 will be added and will be assigned to the real part of result. Similarly, the imaginary part of the complex 1 and the imaginary part of the complex 2 will be added together and will be assigned to the imaginary part of the temp object, which is being ultimately assigned to this result. And finally, result dot output is shown, and then we have a return 0 because main is here, it is an integer returning function. Now, if we can see the output, how this how this code is going to work, it will say enter the first complex number, the real and imaginary parts, for example respectively we have given 8 and 6, and similarly it will ask for the second complex number, then the real and imaginary parts. Let us say what we have entered is 8 and 5, and then it will add real to real and then imaginary to imaginary, and finally it is going to give us the answer as 16 plus 11i. So, with this what we have seen? With this we have taken one complex operator plus and we have written some code inside that, and I have also told you that there are two kind of we can say trickier terms, one is constant, another one is ampersand. So, instead of using this constant and ampersand, we could have also written it simply as a complex object. For example, the code would have been complex operator plus and within the bracket complex obj. So, we have removed ampersand from within the bracket, we have removed const also. This can be written like this as well, but what is the utility of writing const and what is the utility of writing ampersand is by using the referencing the complex 2, we are using the object complex 2 instead of making a duplicate object inside the operator function. We don't want to do that, we don't want to have an duplicate object. That is why we are passing complex 2 as an kind of we can say pass by reference, so that that creation of duplicate object should be avoided. And also using const is considered as a good practice because it is going to prevent the operator function from modifying the complex 2. So, we do not want operator function to modify the complex 2, that is why we are kind of we can say prefixing that particular function, that particular object using the const keyword. Also, why we are passing this as pass by reference, because we do not want to make a duplicate object. So, in whenever we are talking about the member function thing, it is kind of we can say optional, or it is we can say desirable to make or to pass the object using the referencing mechanism, but when we turn down to friend function for the similar objective, the things will kind of we can say get changed. So, now till this point what we have covered is what are the ways through which we can we can say this operator overloading can be achieved. So, this operator overloading can be achieved either by using a normal function we can say, or by using a member function, or by using an friend function. And in this lecture what we have covered till now is actually kind of we can say overloading a binary operator using the facility of member function, and we have taken example of a complex class, and within this complex class there are two basically we can say parts, one is real, another one is imaginary, and we have overloaded operator plus. So, real part of one object and the second object are added together, imaginary parts of the object 1 and object 2, which are complex 1 and complex 2 here, are added together, and the results are passed accordingly to the we can say resultant object. Now, we are coming to the looking at why we are looking for the pass by reference mechanism. As I told you that passing the object using the referencing mechanism is actually an optional, or we can say more desirable, when we are talking about a member function. But when we will talk about the friend function, this will become a kind of we can say compulsion there. Also, what is the difference between friend function and member function? Using both these two functions for operator overloading will be definitely in terms of number of parameters which you are passing for that operator function. So, using the operator function as a member function will have different number of arguments even for the unary operator. And similarly, for the binary operator, using the operator function as member function or as friend function will give a major difference in terms of numbers of objects. So, till this point we have seen how these can be achieved using a member function, and in the upcoming lectures we will be looking at how these can be how this facility or operator overloading can be achieved when we talk about a friend function. And here is a list of references which is being used for preparation of these lecture. Hope you had a fruitful learning. Thank you.